Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're in beautiful countryside. We've got some amazing weather and we happen to have one of the best cars on the planet, the Audi RS6. This car has been my favourite, my dream car since the first one came out in 2002, and over the past 15 years Audi have just perfected it into what it is today. Right, so this particular one that we've got here is the very latest RS6. It's the facelifted version of the C7. For any of you that follow me on my channel and see my other videos, you know that I love a fast, practical car. Of course, I love sports cars like your traditional sort of 911s, but I do love a car that, number one, is a wolf in sheep's clothing, which this car has always been, and number two, a car that you can throw 4 or 5 adults in. There's a massive boot in the back. You can put your mountain bikes in there. You can go away on holidays. And to the untrained eye, people probably still think this is, just an Audi A6 with big wheels on it. But they couldn't be further from the truth. So yeah, it's the first time I've actually driven the new C7 RS6 today. I used to have an RS6, but the older one, the C6. And that was a great car, the one with the V10 lump in it. It was very fast, but it was a bit of a numb drive. This one today, I can't actually believe it. I don't get scared behind the wheel of many cars. I've driven a lot of fast, powerful cars, but I've had this one a couple of hours and I'm still terrified putting my foot down. Okay, I guess the next thing we should do is do a quick walk around of the car, and I can show you sort of some of the main standout features on this awesome machine. And I thought we'd start with the most important, the heart of the RS6, which is now a 4-litre V8 twin turbo. Unbelievable power unit. It's mated to the fairly familiar for me 8-speed ZF automatic gearbox. This particular car is very heavily optioned. The list price for this car when new was just over £100,000. So it's got lots of things, including some of the styling or the carb. It's got the carbon pack on it, which sort of gives you lovely bits of carbon, the wing mirrors, the rear diffuser, and it just finishes off, especially this car in the darker sort of black colour. It looks fantastic. The other sort of telltale sign of an RS6 or RS4, anything that's fairly special, are the humongous brakes that are fitted to these cars. Now there is a carbon option on this car, but I can tell you these brakes for everything but maybe the hardest of track use work extremely well. So the interiors of all Audis these days are beautiful, and any RS product, they just tend to add to that. There's always a few RS sort of telltale signs in the interior. So this particular one's got the really beautiful quilted but supportive and comfortable RS seats with the RS6 logo on them, which is fantastic. Obviously it's got the 8-speed specially tuned gearbox, and the all-important flat steering wheel, which is really an RS product and something that you find across the range now. Even with the seats up there, I could probably almost get one of my mountain bikes in the boot with the wheels off. It's that big. I would estimate it's probably about 4 foot wide and at least 4.5 foot deep. Obviously when you whack the seats down there, as you can see, the boot is endless. With the seats down, it's massive. Again, that's what makes this car just so special. Right, so this particular RS6 is fitted with the Capristo exhaust. There are a few aftermarket exhausts available for the RS4s and the RS6s. This one's fantastic. It comes with a little remote control that's got 4 settings, basically 1 being the quietest and 4 being the most antisocial. By which I mean 4, the valves are constantly open. It makes an awesome sound. You're always hearing that V8. The crackles and bangs and pops you get on the overrun are fantastic, especially when you change down or when you're accelerating hard and it's going through the gearbox. It's brilliant. Okay, cool. Well, I guess that's enough talking about the car. Let's go and take her out for a spin. yeah, so the comfort setting in this car is really good. Certainly an improvement over the older car, and yeah, I'd say on par with something like my 7 Series. In fact, the ride's very, very supple, but the torque of this motor, it feels ridiculously fast in comfort. You feel the need to change gear sort of before 3,500 revs, just because it's got so much torque and power all that way down. But yeah, you can override the gearbox anytime just by selecting the paddles, and then it will stay in manual for a certain amount of time before it switches back into automatic. Obviously you can override that down here by switching over into the full manual mode. We've got the exhaust in mode 4 at the moment, which is basically valves open, so it's pretty loud, pretty antisocial. Yeah, it's a lovely, really is a nice ride. It's you forget how much car you've got hanging out behind you. Again, sort of comparing it to the older one, which is probably the closest car I've driven to this, the older C6 RS6. That felt like an extremely fast bus, whereas this doesn't at all. You forget that you're in such a big car. It feels much more like a sort of traditional sports car. Let's change the drive mode into dynamic, so let's click on that. Now instantly I can feel through the seat of my pants that the car has become, and you can probably see it on camera as well, the car has instantly become, I'd say, I don't know, 50% stiffer. The dampening's still there, you can still feel the really expensive dampening, but the ride itself has become a hell of a lot stiffer. And you also get, as soon as you put it in dynamic, you get the better exhaust sound as well. The faster gear changes. Now I've got it in manual. I think on this particular road I would always have this car in manual. But again, when you're in the dynamic setting and you put it into drive, you know, it's quite an aggressive calibration when you're in drive and dynamic. We'll just change down here. You can hear the pops and bangs. And again, that's not extending it. That's like 2,500 revs, and you get a nice overrun. Listen to that. I could hear that. I could listen to that all day long. Right, we're going into a de-restricted bit now, so we'll just give it some. And that's just silly speeds. I mean, yeah, it is so capable, this car, it's unbelievable. It's, on the way down here this morning before we had the camera out, I was literally I was giggling constantly. And, you know, I do get to drive a lot of exotic, a lot of fast machinery, but this car, you just can't get your head around it. You can't get your head around that you're in such a practical, definitely wouldn't call it a normal looking car, because it's not normal looking. It is awesome looking, but it's fairly regular looking. Certainly doesn't look like a Lamborghini or a 911 Turbo. And trying to get your head around a car that sort of looks fairly normal, and yet it goes like, there's no other term for it, shit off a shovel. Yeah, it's brilliant, and I love that about this car. How can you not like that sound? I mean, where do you draw the line? You know, where, you know, how much is too much? When the first RS6 was out, that was 450 brake. This one's an extra 100 brake horsepower, a bit lighter and a lot more torque. And you get in this car, and you do think to yourself, how or why would you ever want to go any faster than this? What would it feel like to go even faster than this? You know, there's not many cars, I don't think there's any cars that I've driven that are faster than this car. So you do wonder when tuning companies get hold of something like this RS6 and they give it an extra 100, 200, 250 horsepower, what the need is and why you'd want that. Because certainly the last thing that I feel like after driving this car for half a day is, let's give it some more power. I understand the exhaust thing, you know, that's practical, it sounds good, it lets more of the character of the car come out, but in terms of giving it extra power, does it need any extra power? I don't think so. But maybe if I own this car for 6 months, you know, like many cars, you know, if there was an extra 100 or 150 horsepower that I could buy myself into, would I be tempted? Possibly. But certainly today, I can't see why you'd need any more power. Just so fast, but so planted as well. You know, you on the brakes and it's stable. I mean, I'm not pushing it at all. You know, this car, I'm not a good enough driver to push this car to its limits, especially only being in it half a day, but it just feels so capable. Again, you know, the older car felt uncomfortable when you start to push it. This, I reckon you can actually have a bit of fun out on track on this car, and that's ridiculous. It's 2 tons. It darts out of corners. The steering's so direct in it. It's so pointy, the front end. Again, in a big car, I'm not used to having a front end that, you know, turns in so well. It's brilliant. I'm actually quite speechless for once, which a lot of you, I'm sure, are happy to hear. So we're in first. Let's just do a little launch here. Now I actually got caught out there. It goes, once it picks up, it goes to the rev range so fast that first to second I pulled second too slowly and it hit the limiter. So you've got to almost shift a bit. It's not that the gearbox or the reaction to the paddles is slow, it's just that the gain in revs is so fast that you've got to reprogram your brain a little bit to shift a tad earlier than you think. I do get asked this regularly, being a car lover and a car guy, you know, all my friends, family, everyone, "Oh Joe, what's the one car you'd have?" And most people out there, they'll be thinking like Bugattis or whatever, something ridiculous. But no, if you had the one car and you weren't going to keep it in terms of value, if you couldn't just sell it on and make a load of money, one car, it would probably be this RS6, because it fulfills everything. As I said, I'm a mountain biker. I like to take my bikes around the country. I like to take people, we like to do European road trips, you know, not just the 2 of us, maybe 3, 4 of us, and in this sort of car you can do that. But I also love a car that scares me, a car that really goes if you need it to, but also a car that really cruises and is easy to sit on a motorway for 4 or 5 hours and, you know, not give you earache or backache. It's just, and this car just does all of that. You know, it's this new RS6 covers all of those grounds very well, and today's sort of, you know, today's drive has just confirmed that to me. It really is a car that's capable of doing everything, and that's difficult. That is really difficult, and there's not many other cars out there that you know, Range Rover SVR, they've tried to make, you know, you can't, it doesn't matter what you do, you can't, the physics of having a 4-wheel drive like a Range Rover that sits up so high, you're never going to be able to make that handle, you know, like one of these. So I think this is the ultimate car for 100 grand, that's for sure. Now for the really upsetting part of the day. Unfortunately, the time has come to hand this beast back. It's been a fantastic day, and thanks for tuning in as always, guys. Please remember to subscribe. Cheers. A dream car of mine. We've got ourselves a brand new Audi RS6. I'm too nervous.
That's all right. That's all right. We'll do it again.
That can be in the outtakes.
If there's one thing you got to get right, Joe.
A couple of mountain bikes in there, or your kitchen wardrobe, or whatever you want. Kitchen wardrobe? You don't have kitchen wardrobes, do you? Kitchen, well, I love kitchen wardrobes. They're so convenient. You can make your breakfast and sort of just get changed in the kitchen. You've got number one that is sort of the most antisocial.